You're listening to the Sermon Podcast for the Peak Church, located in Apex, North Carolina. Our church is striving to welcome all who are feeling disconnected from God. And so our hope is that over the next several minutes, you will connect with the God that we are talking about, and you'll resonate deeply with the life that this God wants for you. We hope you enjoy.
The scripture passage is from the book of Matthew, chapter 1, verses 18 through 25. This is how the birth of Jesus Christ took place. When Mary, his mother, was engaged to Joseph, before they were married, she became pregnant by the Holy Spirit. Joseph, her husband, was a righteous man. Because he didn't want to humiliate her, he decided to call off their engagement quietly. As he was thinking about this, an angel from the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, "Joseph, son of David, don't be afraid to take Mary as your wife, because the child she carries was conceived by the Holy Spirit. She will give birth to a son, and you will call him Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins." Now all of this took place so that what the Lord had spoken through the prophet would be fulfilled. "Look, a virgin will become pregnant and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God is with us." When Joseph woke up, he did just as an angel from God commanded and took Mary as his wife. But he didn't have sexual relations with her until she gave birth to a son. Joseph called him Jesus. This is the word of God for us, the people of God. Thanks be to God.
In his book, The Celebration of Discipline, author and theologian Richard Foster suggests that there are 12 spiritual disciplines that you and I would do well to consider incorporating and practicing as a part of our everyday life to deepen and enrich our relationship with God. They include the usual suspects like prayer and fasting and studying your Bible. And just to be clear, I don't have an issue with the list. This is good. This is great. I just think it is incomplete. He didn't ask for my opinion, but had he done so, I would have recommended a number of things and experiences I have gone through in life that have offered actually quite substantial spiritual testing. For starters, I think raising a bulldog should be considered a spiritual discipline. Do not, for a second, let that sweet, cute face fool you. We had the worst time trying to train that dog to do anything we told it to do. In fact, we weren't alone. On the AKC website, the American Kennel Club, they actually have a blog. I don't know if you knew this, but it's a good reading for different breeds and such. And so many years later, we went and read, we're like, are we alone? Are we struggling alone? And these are real comments left by real bulldog owners. Raising our bulldog was 10% feeding and 90% preventing him from eating things that are not food. Comment number 2, my bulldog just tried to nap while standing up. I'm pretty sure I'm not raising him. I'm just keeping him from not going back to the veterinary hospital. Comment number 3, I owned a bulldog for a long while, and most of the time he was like a sleepy toddler who snores like a grown man but drools like Niagara Falls. Raising a bulldog is easy, another person said, if you enjoy surprise vet bills and being judged by a creature that can't even reach their own backside. And finally, my bulldog has 2 speeds, full zoomies, and I cannot possibly walk to my water bowl today. Carry me, please. I think driving in traffic is a spiritual discipline. Navigating difficult family dynamics during the holidays is a spiritual discipline. Rooting for a bad sports team, another spiritual discipline. And when asked, my wife has gone on record in saying that being married to me is easily one of the most spiritually challenging experiences she's ever been through in her entire life. You're welcome. here to serve. On a serious note, today we're continuing our Advent journey. We are on week 2 of our Advent journey, and Advent is a very stark reminder that waiting is a spiritual discipline. Waiting on God to act, waiting on God to move. I had a pastor growing up who used to say, when I look back on my life, God did some of the most spiritually significant things during seasons that felt the most insignificant. However, Advent is also very specific in the type of waiting that it recommends. Just any old waiting around, there's nothing spiritual to that. There's nothing sacred or holy in that. It's how we wait that sets apart the Christian, right? Advent comes along and specifically says that we as followers of Christ, we are called to be those who wait while also clinging to hope while we wait. We are people who cultivate joy while we wait. We are people who embody sacrificial and selfless love while we wait. And in the case of today, on the second week of Advent, we are also those who make peace while we wait. For some of us, this Advent season, that is making peace with a conflict in the world, a conflict with another person. But in today's story, we're going to hear of someone who had to learn how to make peace with themselves and with God, who it feels like has asked him to do something that literally feels impossible. Let's dive in. If you have your Bibles with you and you want to snag those and have them handy, go ahead and return to Matthew chapter 1, or if you're watching this online and you want to read along as we're studying. Each week throughout the course of Advent, what we do is most of the stories that we read and we study are those that take place right before the Christmas event, so right before Jesus is born. And so what we do during Advent typically is we sort of look at the Christmas event, the incarnation moment, from the vantage point, the perspective of several different characters. So today, we're looking at it through the eyes of Joseph. Now, as we begin today, I need to offer you a little bit of a history lesson, a cultural, contextual lesson, so that you can really appreciate what's happening in our story for today. Okay? Is that okay? Can I offer you a quick history lesson? So a quick historical cultural note that's really important for you to know is that in the first century, the time which this is written, in the first century, it was not only normal, but it was customary for the groom to be older than the bride, the husband to be older than the wife. And so most biblical scholars, knowing this and have studied this, even though the Bible doesn't literally spell out Mary was this old and Joseph was this old, most scholars suggest that it is highly likely that Mary was in that mid-teenage sort of age. And there's two prevailing theories when it comes to Joseph. Joseph was either likely in his mid-20s, mid-30s, or he was a little bit older, into his late 30s, all the way up to maybe his early 50s. So not quite a Bill Belichick situation. I've been sitting on that joke for 4 weeks now. Not quite that bad, thank the Lord. But older nonetheless. Why does that matter? Kyle, why is that important to our story for today? It's important because it reminds us that Joseph has been waiting on this. He's been waiting for a good long while to get married, start a family, build a life. This is his dream. Only to see what happens next. Verse 18. This is how the birth of Christ, Jesus Christ, took place. When Mary, his mother, was engaged to Joseph, before they were married, she became pregnant by the Holy Spirit. Can you imagine? Many of you can. Can you imagine waiting on something for so long, anticipating and being so excited about something for so long, only for all of it to at least initially be completely spoiled? This person that he thought he could trust, that he was going to trust for the rest of his life, has betrayed him, it suggests. He has no other logical, rational explanation for this. And so the story says that he goes on to quietly figure out, well, I guess I have no other options. I have to break this thing off. And while he's in the middle of all that turmoil, falls asleep one day and has a vision where an angel shows up and says, hey, by the way, pump the brakes. This is a good thing. This is a good thing. I know you're confused. I know you're very disoriented. This is a very, very good thing. This is a gift from God. And it's not only God's will for the world, but it is God's will for your life, Joseph. Isn't this exciting? You get to name the Savior of the world. Talk about whiplash. Right? This was not on his vision board for 1 AD, right? And so Joseph, Scripture says, being a righteous man, has a decision to make. He can either make peace with God, make peace with this very abrupt change in direction for his life. Make peace that this is God's plan, that that's God's will for his life. Or he can start making exceptions. He can start making excuses. Let me start with that option first, because I'm very well versed in that one. When God asks me to do something very, very hard, something very, very abrupt, something unforeseen, I'm very skilled at offering a whole laundry list of justifications and rationalizations as to why there's no plausible way God actually expects me to do fill in the blank. I can only imagine what this conversation was like between Joseph and God. Joseph saying, God, I just wanted to live a nice, simple life. I love you. I'm following you. Like, isn't that enough? Like, I just wanted to start a family, and we'll go to temple once a week, and I'll even volunteer on the greeting or the coffee team and children's ministry, dear God, if you need me. But I'll do my devotions, and I'll do service projects every now and again. Like, I thought that's what my life entailed. I thought that was the story my life was going to tell. I had no idea you were going to come in and wreck all the plans that I had been making. And you see, friends, that struggle, that inner conflict that Joseph undoubtedly felt would have forced him and forced us to admit the quiet part out loud. That for so many of us, myself included, our faith can be so conditional at times. Our willingness to obey and to surrender to God can have so many terms and limitations and conditions upon it if we're not careful. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the 20th century theologian, used to say it this way when he was sort of trying to really invoke some courage in the German church during World War II. He used to say that if your faith is all you getting the benefits of believing in Jesus, but he doesn't ever get to ask anything difficult of you, that's called cheap grace. He went on to write in the book, The Cost of Discipleship, faith is only real when there's obedience. He or she who believes, obeys. And she who obeys is the one who truly believes. And so Joseph's got quite the predicament. This is a pivotal moment, not only in the biblical story, but it is a pivotal moment in his own story. From this moment on, he's either going to start down a path where for the rest of his life, he's constantly coming up with justifications and explanations and excuses and rationalizations as to why he can't and won't do what God's asking him to do. Or he's going to have to make peace that this is now his story. Now, every time I stand up here, I sort of make a commitment that I am always going to do my absolute best to be as honest as I can with you. And this is one of those moments. Anyone who tries to tell you that making peace with God's plans is always easy is lying to you. Sometimes it's true. Sometimes God suggests a direction for my life. It's so much better than the one I've been living. And I'm like, oh, thank God, yes, absolutely. I'll sign up for that all day long. And then other times, experiencing such a plot twist, a radical shift in direction for where your life thought it was going, and now it's going this direction. Many of you know firsthand that is a tough pill to swallow. And it's okay to admit that. By the way, this is why I love, the author includes this little detail. Talking about Joseph, as Joseph was thinking about this, I love that little detail is included because it just suggests that Joseph was human, and it gives us permission to be like Joseph and be human, that whenever something really unforeseen and jarring is asked of us out of life, of course we're going to need a minute to think about it. Of course we're going to need a minute. It's not sinful. It's not wrong. You're not an unfaithful person to go, okay, didn't think this is where it was going. I need a minute. Okay, I need to wrestle through this. I need to struggle through this a bit. Anyone know what Israel, the first name ever given to God's people, anyone know what Israel means? One who wrestles with God. The first name that God ever gave to God's people was almost saying, it was giving us permission that sometimes to make peace with a decision, to make peace with a different plan, a different will for your life, you go wrestle with that thing. Joseph's no different. For starters, Joseph would have had to make peace with the fact that from this point on, he would not be the main character in his own story. Instantly, overnight, in his own home, he went from, in a very patriarchal society, the leader and the main character in his family to maybe third most important to overnight. He's not the protagonist in his own story. If you go and read the Gospels, most of the Gospels fail to even mention Joseph again in the rest of the Gospels. Those who do, mention him one more time. Joseph would have had to make peace with all the family gossip that you know went down. Some of you are in that family group text, when stuff goes down. Some of you are like, I'm not in a family group text. I hate that you're figuring out this way. Yeah, you're the subject of that text. He would have to make peace with weird remarks, weird looks from family members, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and all these gatherings, people talking about him. Oh yeah, that's Mary. Oof. He would have had to make peace with the fact that his friends had a much easier time than he did. He looked around at his friends and watched them start their lives, have kids, get married, make their own plans, and it's just completely drama-free for them, so it appears. He would have had to make peace with the fact that Jesus isn't really his son. You ever thought about that? For the record, how does one even go about parenting or disciplining the Savior of the world? Go to your room. Well, stepdad, my real dad says that he hath prepared many rooms, and so which one, guardian, would you like for me to go and sit in? Yeah. Joseph's story is a reminder that oftentimes making peace will require some element of grief. You remember the 5 stages of grief? I don't like calling them the stages of grief. It's more like the phases of grief or the areas of grief. When I look at his life and I look at my own life, every single time God has shifted my plan or shifted the direction of where I was going, I've had to camp out in one of these places for a while. When I was first called to be a pastor of a church, denial was my best friend. No way, absolutely not. That is not the call upon my life. Jesus, you were shooting calls and someone ducked and you hit me on accident. That's not me. That's not me. Professionally, There have been some things that I got passed over or I got sort of worked around. And some of you, that's the same case for you professionally. You got passed over for a job that you thought you earned or a promotion you thought you earned. And later, you're like, that was good. That was God's plan. But during, I was ticked off. Bargaining, that's my favorite. It's my favorite. When God asks me to do something that I don't want to do, specifically something that comes at a cost to me in my comfort zone or financially or possibly being less liked, I like to say, well, that's one idea, Jesus. There's a couple other pathways, though, and so let's just sort of game tape it a little bit. Let's just, we're still in the storming phase. Let's put some things on the table. And I can think of several times in my life where a relationship dissolved, some romantic, some just like friends and family members dissolved. And it wasn't until years later that I could look back and go, God, that was definitely God protecting me or steering me in a different direction. But during that, making peace with that was one of the most despairing and depressing places I've ever been. My point is, feeling these things does not make you unfaithful. Having to work through these things doesn't make you unfaithful. It puts you right there in the company of Joseph, of so many people in the Bible. And you want to know how they ultimately make this decision between my plans versus God's plans? Feeling all those things and enduring all those things, they still were brave enough and humble enough to ask, really, what is the decision? What really is the choice between these two things? Really? It's what I think is best for me. What I think, from what I can see, from what I can understand, from my perspective and vantage point of the situation, what I think is best for me versus what God knows is best for us. If you boil it down, when it comes to decision time, that's the decision. I'll close here. I can tell by the look on so many of y'all's faces that you are very, very well acquainted with this inner conflict, this inner war, right? So many of us, we can look back at many different seasons of our lives. Maybe you're in one right now where, if you were honest, inside of you, you've got these competing, these warring desires and preferences and plans and wills for your life. And friends, the way I see it is when you experience that inner war, you have three options. Number one, you can continue to see it as your plans versus God's plans, right? For some of us, that's the way we see it. Every time we feel like God speaks, we feel like we have someone who's suggesting something that's going to ruin our fun or take away something good or mess something up. Every time we feel like we have opened ourselves just a little bit to hear what God may want to say, what direction and guidance he may want to offer, we feel protective. And we feel like we need to move in defense mode. And friends, that way of engaging and interacting and opening yourself up to God's plans and God's dreams for your life is not sustainable. If every time God speaks, you hear God is saying something that scares you or threatens you, makes you angry, something you got to fight back against, then eventually, who does God become? Not your friend, your enemy. And those type of relationships don't last very long. I'll give you another one that actually most of us in this room are probably well more acquainted with. For others of us, when it comes to this inner conflict between my plans and God's plans, it's not versus, it's not either or, it's I'm going to try to do both and. I'm going to try to do both and. I'm a multitasker. Seriously, you'd be impressed. Other people can't do it, but I can do it. Like, I can do both things. I have the ability to juggle all of the dreams and aspirations and goals that I have for my life. And at the same time, I have the ability to tend to whatever God is asking of me and all the things that God needs of me in the direction that God has for my life. Other people can't do this, but you haven't seen me in action, Kyle. I can do both. And friend, I hate to be the one that tells you, but that path too ain't sustainable. Why not? Well, you're going to burn out, for one. And when you do, and you have to choose whose plans you're going to tend to, whose do you think are the first to go? Or, maybe more realistically, you'll wake up many, many years from now, and you'll be shockingly impressed, hauntingly impressed by your now newfound ability to baptize everything that you want to do and call it God's plans without actually even asking if that's what God wanted or not. And this is why. All of this is why. The only real sustainable way forward with Jesus is what Joseph models for us. It is not trying to juggle two sets of plans, two wills, two desires, two plots, two stories, but it is from this day forward working day in and day out, discerning day in and day out to align your life, to align my life with God's plans. It is routinely asking of God, before I make this decision, before I enter into this relationship, before I take this job, before I make this move, God, let your will be done, not mine. And all of this is precisely why the way in which we're going to close our worship service today is to gather around this table. We're going to receive communion again here today. And the reason for which is because communion is one of our traditions. It's one of our liturgical, sacramental disciplines whereby we say to God, for far too long, it's been my will versus yours. For far too long, God, it's been my will and yours. I have been at war with myself for so long, and I don't want to be at war anymore. I want to be at peace with you. What does communion mean? It means to make one, to become one, to align everything you are and everything you're going to do and everything you're going to be with who God has designed you to be.
Thank you for listening to the Peak Podcast. Make sure you subscribe wherever podcasts can be found. For more information on how to get connected with our church, please visit us at thepeakchurch.org.